Hey, this is my January and February question and answer video. I had already technically done this once and had it even mostly edited, and then I messed up and ruined it. So I had the material already in play and I could have just redid some of it, but as time went on I just started to feel like I'm going to change some things. So I basically started from scratch. So I think what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to redo it now, but where I feel I did better answers the first time through, I might splice those into this one. So that's what's going to go on. So let's get into the questions, and then after that I might answer a few other things that haven't been asked yet that have been asked on other platforms. Sammy Gibson asked, what were your thoughts on Crisis on Infinite Earths? For me, it was good. Here's the thing: I'm not really a comic book reader. I mean, obviously I've read some comic books, but it is not a thing I have done much. Even when I was younger, I sporadically would read them. So I didn't have an expectation of what needed to be in there. Now, I did a lot of homework on Crisis, obviously, because I thought I would need to know this information pertaining to my job. As it turned out, I didn't, but I did a lot of reading up on it, learning who the characters were, so I understand why fans of comics are put off by some of what they saw. But for an entertainment standpoint, which is all I want when I watch a show, I just want to be entertained, loved it. The cameos were fun, the story flowed well enough. I mean, there's obviously some clunky parts. There was parts that they easily could have cut out a minute here, 45 seconds there, to give you guys something different, you know. I think the one thing I think they really missed, the one big thing they did not do well, was putting in more big group fight scenes. And I'm not even talking about the core actors. They needed to show one or two small little scenes with 5 or 8 people here, 10 there. They could have just been locals. You put them in a costume similar in style to one of the heroes that was in Crisis Comics that is not a name brand person, because there's 500 characters in the comics. They don't all have their own franchises. You could have used 6 or 8 of them. I mean, they pulled in Sargon the Sorcerer. Why didn't they get a few more of those little people and just put them in there to fill in a minute or two of screen time and cut back on some of the pointless stuff, like the Lena and Alex stuff, the Barry and Iris stuff. I would even go as far as to say like the Oliver and Mia scenes. I mean, I'm not saying you needed to take them all out, but you could have trimmed them down substantially. Between just those 3 sets of people, you could take out 2 minutes of screen time, give that to a fight here and a fight there that's 45 seconds to a minute and a half each, and you would have appeased a little bit more of the fan base. From just an overall entertainment standpoint, really fun. I liked it. And I like that it gives the Arrowverse a chance for a bit of a reset on some of the shows. I mean, we've already seen the remnants of that on The Flash and a couple of the other shows where there's some new things. So I like it, and I'm glad they did it. I just think there was obviously some room for improvement. Nothing's ever going to be really perfect when you're doing a job that big. For television, I think they did a pretty good job, though. This question comes from Tom Genevieve. Hey, Cantographs. Was wondering 2 things. 1, on your website you've made a list of your top nicest and rudest celebrities, and I have noticed Melissa Benoist and Joaquin Phoenix are on the rudest list with no further explanation. Is this because they just don't sign up for fans, or is there any other reasons? Please elaborate. I'm curious. Secondly, will you ever do another giveaway, or are you just going to wait until You reach another significant milestone like 10,000 subscribers. Thanks, and keep up the good work. So when it comes to my nicest and rudest list, here's the thing. I get this all the time on Twitter. People attacking me over it, and it's because they just think because it's my business that I'm just thinking about it from a business standpoint, but I'm not. I'm actually okay if a celebrity says no to me most times. I mean, I'm still not okay in the sense of, oh, I am perfectly fine not getting them, but I understand when they say no to someone like me as opposed to a 12-year-old girl dressed in the attire of whatever the entertainer is. So when I put somebody on my worst list, I might use an example of a specific interaction I had in my write-up of it. I'm, I think most of my top 20 worst list, the interactions on there were in context of me, only because I think it's just easier to explain it when it's something that is ingrained in your own memory as opposed to you just observing it happen to someone else. But I still remember they were terrible to other people too. Now, after my top or bottom 20, I don't really do a write-up for everyone because the page would go on forever if I did a write-up for all 100 of them. So that's why there's no write-up for Melissa or Joaquin, because they're not in that bottom 20. Now, to be fair to Melissa specifically, I haven't updated that list in a while. There has been no real reason to. I haven't really come across anyone so rude that I'm like, I need to put them on the list today. So I haven't updated that list in a while. When I finally do, I'm going to drop her ranking down in a fair bit. Now, I'm not saying she's going to be off the list because I feel she still has some things to answer for as far as making it off that list. But her video, obviously, at the end of 2019 there, answered a lot of questions on why she might be a bit the way she is. And I'm giving her a wider pass on some of those previous engagements that I've seen with people. So, like with Joaquin, not so much. I mean, Joaquin is just an unpleasant person all the time. I watched him specifically try and sneak into a building that hundreds of other celebrities have just walked in. Joaquin, he did a press conference at an event quite a few years ago now, and there would always be a little group of us, anywhere from 6 to 20 people waiting at the back of this venue for people going in. And it's a small little space, but they still had plenty of room to walk right by if they didn't feel like engaging with the public. And lots of them would. Lots of them would walk in or walk out, whichever case it is, and just not engage. But not Joaquin. Joaquin decided he was going to try and sneak in. There's a little side door about 20 feet away from where we were. He tried to go in that door, even banged on the door, wouldn't get in. Finally realized he had to come by where we were. Instead of just being normal about it, he walked near the wall like he was, trying to walk along a 4-inch wide ledge on the side of a building and scooched along the wall so that he could be as far away from us as possible going into the building. Now, that was already kind of a dick move, but then he also, after the event, got driven out from underneath the building, which nobody had ever done. No one. We're talking the likes of Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford and megastars. Never done that. And then this actor who, no offense, even though he's now got an Oscar, I don't consider him an A-lister, but he's going around getting people to drive him from underneath. You gotta remember, this is 10 years or so before he ever did Joker. This is when he was a nobody. He's getting them to drive him down from underneath. It's just that type of douchiness that gets him on the list, and he could sign 25 for me tomorrow and he's still going to be on my list. That's what I mean when I tell people signing doesn't mean anything for me. 2/3 of the people on my worst list have signed for me. That's not a guess, that's a fact. I just did the numbers when I saw this question. 68 of the 100 people on that 100 list have signed for me. So, people that say it's all about them not signing for me have no clue what my decisions are based on. Anyways, that as far as a giveaway, they're pretty random. I mean, I do use milestones as a time to do a giveaway. Like I had my 10-year milestone, I had my 5,000 subscriber milestone. But I do still have the occasional one here or there interspersed in between. Not planning one right this minute, but you never know. Maybe the end of TV season or in the summer, there'll be another one. This question also comes from Tom Jemier. Hey Canadagraphs, me again. After watching the Arrow series finale, I have a question regarding a previous tweet from Marc Guggenheim. The tweet from Marc said, earlier this week we shot a scene for the Arrow finale I was convinced would be spoiled by paparazzi. Somehow, some way it wasn't. Miracles do happen. And I was wondering if you know which scene he was talking about. Secondly, were you happy with the way Arrow ended? Thanks. I don't know which scene he's talking about, but I have narrowed it down to one of two. He's either talking about the funeral where the Al Ghouls were there and Tommy is talking to Laurel and Amiko is talking to Thea, etc. He's either talking about that scene, the one where Diggle makes his big speech. The other scene he could possibly be talking about is when Diggle finds the ring. It's one of those two scenes. I don't know which one. And those are the only two that made sense to me when I saw that. Because when I saw the episode, I'm like, oh, it has to be one of these two things. Because, they're exteriors. They're in places that could have been seen. Yeah, so that was that. As far as my feelings on the Arrow finale, pretty good. Again, just like with Crisis, nothing's going to be perfect. You just go in hoping it's going to be pretty good or better. I felt they wrapped up most of the storylines. The Thea and Roy getting engaged worked for me. We don't need to see them married. We just are going to, in our head, know that's probably the general outcome. I thought that was perfect because I think a lot of fans weren't happy when they found out Roy and Thea weren't together. Lila getting a job in National City was cool because there's the potential for her or Dig to end up on Superman and Lois. As far as the ending scene, now I know a lot of people think I hate Elicity, and I'm definitely not a fan. I mean, it's definitely the weakest part of the show for many years. But the scene was good. The scene fit. I thought it was a very good ending. I really liked the callback to the first time Oliver saw her. If I were to rank all the scenes I can remember from Elicity, it might be the best one. Only because a lot of them I didn't like. So yeah, I think it was a pretty good overall finale. I thought the only weak spot I thought was Villain of the Week that they pulled off. I kind of felt it just was there because they wanted to have a bad guy of the week in the final episode, and they just squished this in there in a few minutes to do whatever. That part I don't think was solid, but whatever. If I were to score the episode, I'd still call it a A- or an A. So yeah, very good. Group Events and More asked, do you have photos of episodes 10 to 14 of Flash? I had some photos of episode 12. I did just post them recently on my site. I will try and remember to put a link in the description for you so that you can find that. There wasn't much to it. It was it's just the new Sue Dearborn character and Esperanza at set but not on set. Outside of that, no, I don't have much else from there, mostly because after Crisis, which was their episode 9, I really just needed a full-out break for a little while, so I took like a week or so off. I'd heard of a couple of sets around, but I was kind of like, I need a break. So I may have passed on one or two things that I could have shot, but I didn't. And then as time moved on, we got more and more into winter, which I rarely go out unless it's something really incredible. So it's only in the last 2 weeks that weather's gotten nice enough that I'm willing to go out more. So this is, you won't see a lot on my site between Crisis and episode 17-ish. There's one set from episode 12, and then there's a set from episode 16 or 17. I can't remember which episode they were working on. And then yesterday I put up an episode 18 one. Well, yesterday from whatever time I'm recording this. Razils asks, do you have any idea about the Flash Season 6B villain? I do not, although what we've seen on screen makes me think Black Hole, the organization, is the big bad. I do know, obviously, for episode 618, Godspeed is back. Whether he is a longer lasting Godspeed than the previous versions we've seen is yet to be seen. Maybe he could be the back end villain, but it's looking more like they're aiming for Black Hole right now. So that is all I know at this time. So now I'm going to address a couple other things that have been out there that weren't necessarily asked to me on YouTube, but they've been asked to me on other platforms, and I've answered some of them individually, but I'll just make blanket statements for those who are also wondering. A lot of people have started talking about how the potential spin-off Green Arrow and The Canaries, as it was titled during Arrow, has got a production office and looks like it's probably going to go to series. I've seen this rumor several times swirling around on a couple of platforms, and it irked me enough that I'm going to comment on it here. Any pilot ever done needs a production office, because a production office isn't just it does more than just be there, right? They need a place to store equipment, they need a place to have mail sent, they need a place to just call their own, they need a business place. So every pilot that's ever happened has a production office. Now some of them are pretty small, some of them are literally an office in a third floor of a building, and they just store their machinery and equipment at a studio and bring it out when they need it. But a production office is needed. You have to have somewhere that stuff can be mailed, legal documents, etc. I mean, you can't just have it mailed to the producer's hotel room, it's got to go somewhere that a secretary can take it, figure out who it needs to go to, or if it needs to be something else needs to happen to it. So opening up a production office means nothing as far as whether it got picked up or not, because every single project ever has had one, and 80% of those projects do not make it to series. And as one of the other locals pointed out to someone when they asked about it, lots of intended productions have opened up offices, rented out equipment, even hired cast, and then never even shot a day of work. Somewhere along the line, the project just finally was like scrapped for whatever reason, but they still put out all this money on things. That does happen. I mean, it's almost certainly not going to be the case for Green Arrow and the Canaries. They're at least going to go through the effort of making the pilot, but it is a possibility. Now, do I think it'll get picked up? I'm less certain now than I was 3 months ago. 3 months ago, it was certain 100% it was getting picked up. I hated the idea of it, and I was just accepting the idea that this spin-off that no one really wants was going to happen. Then, when they announced Superman and Lois was getting picked up and Walker Texas Ranger was getting picked up, and they did not make a statement on Green Arrow and the Canaries, that was my first sign where they were starting to read the room and realize not everybody is on board with this. Since then, they have obviously done some work trying to retool the project. I don't know if that will mean notable changes in the casting or if they are just going to try and fine-tune some details. But the fact that they're getting another pilot means they have at least got the studio's support to try again, which is important. The network has gone ahead and ordered other pilots, which happens every year anyways. I mean, I feel the names of the pilots that they are green lighting definitely shows that maybe they're a little soft on the idea of Green Arrow and Canaries now. But at the end of the day, the pilots are ordered every year, and like I said, 80% of them never make it to air. So people can probably rest a little easier on the fact that those pilots that are getting green lit, some of those aren't going to make it. And I was looking at their schedule, trying to figure out how many spots there might be left, and honestly, I think there's only one, maybe two spots. And they've got 6 pilots right now, and they're all pretty strong pilots. Like, there's some real competition out there right now for Green Arrow and the Canaries that they didn't have a couple of months ago. The network, they have a few pilots on the back burner right now stewing, and all the ones that they have are ones that have a name brand behind them already. They have Kung Fu, which is a remake of a series from the 70s. Might not be known to the CW fan base, but it already has a built-in audience. The Lost Boys is a really big one. I really feel the Lost Boys is the #1 contender to get a spot out of the ones that's out there. It was a massive movie in the 80s, and it's got Rob Thomas behind it, who is responsible for iZombie and Veronica Mars and some other projects. It is, if you were to ask me, just based on name recognition and concept, far and away probably the top contender there is. No offense to Green Arrow and Canaries, but the Lost Boys brand name will carry more strength than Green Arrow and the Canaries. There was another one called The Republic of Sarah. This is one they just did like last year for a pilot, and it obviously did not catch on, and they're redoing it again. It's interesting that they would go right back to it right away. I mean, it happens once in a while, but it's I don't know how to feel on that one because I don't know much about it yet. I think this might come down to a who gets cast in the roles situation. So that one's probably more of a I'd put it at the lower end of the list right now. They also had one called Maverick that I don't really know much about the people connected to it, and it doesn't have a cast yet, so it's probably down there near Republic of Sarah as far as potential. And I was told that they're doing backdoor pilot for the 100, but I haven't really heard much about that. If they do, that's another contender. Depending who goes to the project, you know, are they popular enough characters for people to care? That'll be the selling point for the 100. Is, did they bring in a character popular enough to lead that the fans of the 100 will want to carry on watching it? Because that's what I mean. Green Arrow and the Canaries, they brought in a character, and no offense to the fans of Catherine McNamara from projects like Shadowhunters, honestly, Arrow fans are not a fan of her character. Not to say Catherine McNamara does a bad job, it's just the character doesn't fit, and that is the reason this project right now struggles to get green lit as a series, even though it had name brand and everything behind it. So if the 100 backdoor pilot does a better job at selling it to its fans, I think Green Arrow and the Canaries is dead on arrival. That is obviously still to be decided. So if I'm ranking them right now, I say, based on how the backdoor pilot for the 100 goes, it's probably the top contender. If it's lukewarm, I don't think they have time to pitch another pilot for that. So that would be a dead on arrival if it doesn't sell well in its backdoor pilot. And then that would take the Lost Boys to the #1 spot, and Green Arrow and Canaries right now is probably on par with Kung Fu for #2. I mean, I don't know enough about Republic of Sarah or Maverick and what cast they might get for it, and how the story will play out on TV. I mean, maybe Republic of Sarah will blow them out of the water when it comes to the actual story, you know, and suddenly doesn't matter how good of a pitch the other studio does, that one's going to get it. Here's another thing you also have to take into consideration for the CW. The CW needs a minimum amount of shows that are CBS properties. Now, Walker, Texas Ranger will be a CBS property, and Superman and Lois will be a Warner Brothers property. There's only so many slots for both of those networks to play with, and so when you also see the Green Arrow and Canaries spin-off, it's got to more compete with Lost Boys than anything else, because those are both Warner Brothers. Here's Kung Fu. Yeah, Kung Fu is also Warner Brothers. So you have Kung Fu, Lost Boys, and Green Arrow and the Canaries, and the 100 prequel is a split project. It's got both Warner Brothers and CBS down as its studios, so I don't know how that would play out as far as which part of the schedule it goes on. But yeah, that is the Green Arrow and Canaries show. Has a lot of competition right now. I believe the Lost Boys is the one it's got to worry about right now. But yeah, they also have Kung Fu there to worry about as well for what's probably at the most one spot. So I don't know how likely Green Arrow and the Canaries is now. So I'm not trying to say that as a hater. I'm just saying they're up against the Lost Boys now, and Kung Fu is also there. And depending how the time slot is sorted out, they also have the 100 prequel backdoor pilot to compete against. So a couple house cleaning details, business details, account information details to go over. If you've noticed my most recent video, which was for The Flash, either episode 16 or 17, I've started doing voiceover on it and speaking through it because I was getting a few people disappointed there was no audio on my videos. And the reason there's no audio is delete the background sound in case there's any copyright issues. I found that just the easiest way, but people didn't want to apparently listen to deaf silence, even though they could have picked any other video to listen to at the same time. But I guess to appease them, I started speaking now and describing the scene in the videos. So from videos here on outward, I will do a quick audio for it, which is also going to maybe make the process of uploading them take a little longer. As it is right now, I've got a couple of videos that need to go up, but I haven't done the audio for them because I've been working on this. So videos might take a little longer to put up than they used to, because I had enough people say, hey, there's no sound, that now I'm adding sound, but that takes time to edit in. So yeah, that might be why a few videos take a little longer to get out than they used to. I mean, I'm not the fastest as it is already, and now I have to add in the process of trying to sync up video with how my audio is. So that's gonna take up some time. Secondly, though, starting recently, I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to start anytime I have video. I'm going to post it on Patreon first. I will leave that link in the description for Patreon subscribers. I will post it there, potentially with the original audio in it, depending. Sometimes I might remove it, depending if like I'm talking over top of it during the scene. Like say they're shooting a scene, I'm a block away and I'm having a conversation with someone. I don't need that conversation being in the video. But if it's just background of cars driving by or whatever, I might leave the video in. But I'll be posting those to Patreon before they get to YouTube, because sometimes it might take me 2 weeks to get it up on YouTube. So I will have a video for The Flash, and I believe one for Batwoman coming up there this week. I don't know when I'll get around to putting them on YouTube. It definitely won't be this week, though. I've got a couple things, this Q&A included, to get through before I get to that, and that's assuming nothing else pops up this week, which almost certainly something will, because it's getting a little busier again. So from now on, that's why my new videos on YouTube will have audio on them of me talking, is because people didn't want to hear nothing. And I guess that's a better option than nothing. So, and for if you want to see the videos sooner, you can find them on Patreon. And I will leave the link for my Patreon profile down below. And that is it for this week. There's probably a couple other things I want to talk about, and maybe I'll remember it after I've wrapped this up, and I'll squeeze it in. But yep, this is me signing off for the January-February